Welcome back to Rugby Obsession, the podcast that really dives deep into the heart of the rugby world.
Absolutely.
If you're loving these detailed breakdowns,
Yeah.
make sure you hit that subscribe button to catch all our future episodes.
Yeah, for sure.
Today we're tackling a real head-scratcher from the recent Six Nations finale.
Oh,
The World Rugby rankings stayed virtually unchanged.
really?
Yeah, you heard that right.
Wow.
Despite France clinching the championship and England crushing Wales with a record-breaking score, the rankings barely budged.
Huh. Interesting.
We've got a stack of articles and match data, and we're here to figure out what's going on.
Sounds good. Let's dive in.
All right.
So what's fascinating here is that at first glance, you'd expect a shakeup.
Yeah.
France dominating the Six Nations, England's massive victory.
Right.
Seems like prime ranking shifting material.
Exactly.
But,
So let's break down these results quickly.
okay.
France took the championship with a solid win over Scotland, 35-16.
Hmm.
Ireland squeaked by Italy, 22-17.
And then, of course, England demolished Wales, 68-14.
Huge scoreline.
Big wins, a tight finish.
Yeah.
You'd think there'd be some movement in the rankings, right?
Right. But here's where the whole system gets a little tricky.
Okay.
The World Rugby rankings aren't just about winning or losing.
Okay.
The margin of victory plays a huge role in those precious ranking points.
Okay, so bigger wins mean more points.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But wasn't France's championship win big enough to bump them up?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
You have to remember the system also considers the relative strength of the teams playing.
Right.
A win against a higher-ranked team is worth more than a win against a lower-ranked one.
Okay. So in this case, France beating Scotland, who were ranked lower, doesn't give them as many points as, say, if they had beaten Ireland, who were currently ranked higher.
Exactly.
Okay.
And even though France's win over Scotland was decisive, it wasn't by enough of a margin to overcome the point difference they already had with Ireland.
Right.
So they stayed put in the rankings. Okay, that's starting to make sense.
Yeah.
But what about Ireland?
Oh, okay.
They barely beat Italy.
Oh, yeah.
Did that affect their ranking?
It did, but not in a way that would move them up.
Okay.
Because their margin of victory over Italy was so slim, they only gained a tiny number of points.
Yeah.
Not enough to overtake New Zealand for the second spot.
It's like every point matters in this system.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Every point counts.
Speaking of points, what about England?
Let's see.
Surely that record-breaking win over Wales moved them up, right?
It did give them a boost, yeah.
Okay.
They jumped ahead of Scotland to the 6th place.
Okay.
But again, the ranking system is all about those margins.
Yeah.
Even that huge win wasn't enough to vault them over any of the teams above them.
So even a record-breaking performance doesn't guarantee a massive ranking jump.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
That's wild.
It is pretty crazy.
If you're enjoying this deep dive into the complexities of the World Rugby rankings, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're going to get into something even weirder next.
Oh, really?
You know how Wales suffered their 16th consecutive loss?
Yeah,
Well, they didn't actually drop in the ranking.
that's right. And it all boils down to this.
What's that?
The outcome of the Rugby Europe Championship match between Georgia and Spain could actually affect Wales's ranking.
Hold on, how does a match between Georgia and Spain affect a team that's not even playing?
Well,
See, the ranking system is like a spider web.
it is incredibly interconnected, you see.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. If Spain manages to upset Georgia and wins, Wales will actually move up to 11th.
Wait, so even in defeat, there's a chance to climb the rankings?
Absolutely. It highlights how interconnected the whole system is.
Yeah.
If Georgia wins, especially by a large margin, they gain enough points to potentially push Wales further down.
So the fate of Wales rests on the shoulders of Georgia and Spain. Talk about pressure. Before we get into what this all means for the World Cup, let's unveil the current top 10.
Okay. At the top, still reigning supreme, is South Africa.
New Zealand holds on to second place.
Ireland, despite their close call, remains in third.
Our Six Nations champions France stay put in fourth.
Argentina keeps their position in 5th.
England's big win moves them to sixth.
Scotland drops a spot to 7th.
Australia rounds out the top 8.
Fiji holds on to 9th.
And making a strong showing in 10th is Italy. That's quite a shakeup in the bottom half of the top 10. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the rugby world, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more. Now let's talk about what these rankings mean for the upcoming World Cup.
This is where it gets really interesting. These rankings determine the seeding for the World Cup pool draw, which dictates who plays who in the early stages of the tournament.
Okay, so break it down for us. How does this whole seeding thing work?
Essentially, the higher your ranking, the more likely you are to be drawn into a pool with theoretically weaker opponents. It's designed to balance the tournament and prevent the strongest teams from knocking each other out too early.
So South Africa, as the top-ranked team, has a better chance of an easier pool than, say, Italy, who are ranked 10th.
Exactly. And this is but upsets happen all the time in the World Cup. Remember when Japan beat South Africa in 2015? No one saw that coming.
That's what makes the World Cup so exciting. The rankings are just one piece of the puzzle. Form on the day, team chemistry, even a bit of luck, all contribute to who wins the Webb Ellis Cup.
Absolutely. So while the rankings are important, they don't tell the whole story.
All right, so we've got the rankings and their potential impact on the World Cup. What should we be watching for as we get closer to the tournament?
Keep an eye on the form of the top teams. Can South Africa maintain their dominance? Can Ireland build on their Six Nations performance? And what about France? Can they carry their momentum into the World Cup?
And don't forget about England. That record win over Wales must have given them a huge confidence boost. Will they be a force to be reckoned with? There are so many exciting possibilities. Before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with one final thought. We've been talking about these rankings and how they can really shake up the World Cup.
Yeah.
But they're really just a snapshot in time, right?
Absolutely. They tell us who's performed well in the past,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily predict who will succeed in the future.
Right.
That's what makes the World Cup so unpredictable.
Exactly. So as we gear up for the World Cup, I think we should look beyond just those numbers.
I agree.
What do you think?
Don't get too caught up in who's at the top or who has the most points right now.
Okay.
Instead, watch the teams that are on the rise.
Yeah.
The ones evolving their game plan, the ones with that fire to prove themselves on the biggest stage.
Those are the teams that often create the most memorable World Cup moments, the upsets, the comebacks, the underdog stories.
For sure. Think about Japan's win over South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't at the top of the rankings, but they played with incredible heart and determination.
Yeah, exactly. So as we follow the upcoming rugby action, let's remember that the rankings are just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, one piece of very complex puzzle.
Right.
Keep an eye on those rising stars, the teams that are hungry for victory.
For sure.
You never know who might be the next giant slayer.
And that's what makes the World Cup so captivating. It's anyone's game. And that wraps up another deep dive here on Rugby Obsession.
It really does. Thanks for joining us as we explored the wild world of rugby rankings and what they might mean for the upcoming World Cup.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
Yeah, we'll be covering all the action as we head towards the World Cup, analyzing matchups and breaking down all the biggest storylines.
And be sure to let us know your thoughts and predictions for the World Cup in the comments. We love hearing from you.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep that rugby passion burning.
Thanks for listening to Rugby Obsession. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the world of rugby.